welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to be back.
Today we're going to be tackling a fascinating mix of market signals, AI hype, and government spending.
Sounds like a fun one.
It's all based on the sources you sent us. So we've got excerpts from financial reports, spicy political commentary, or even some tech analysis.
Cool.
And as a bonus, Elon Musk.
Oh, boy.
It's a surprise appearance.
All right, can't wait.
So where should we start?
Well, I think the state of the market right now is particularly intriguing.
Yeah.
It's like it's stuck in this strange limbo, stagnant on the surface,
right,
but with some seriously powerful undercurrents like swirling beneath.
Yeah, it's giving off major mixed signals.
Yeah.
The S&P 500 is essentially flatlining, recovering from the losses of DeepSeek Monday.
Yeah.
But not showing much decisive movement either way.
Right.
But then you've got Meta pulling off this record-breaking 17-day winning streak.
Yeah.
Hitting a new all-time high. It's enough to make your head spin. What do you think is driving this disconnect?
Well, it's a good question.
Yeah.
And one that's got everyone talking.
Right.
Some analysts are pointing to AI as the driving force behind Meta's surge.
Okay.
But not everyone is buying into the hype.
Right. Like NYU finance professor Aswath Damodaran.
Exactly.
He's been pretty vocal about his skepticism.
He argues that the market might be getting a little ahead of itself.
Yeah.
He's questioning whether the market for premium AI products will be large enough to justify those massive upfront investments companies are making.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's this assumption that AI will automatically translate into immediate profits. And Damodaran is urging caution.
So it's a reminder for all of us to take a step back and really analyze the situation before jumping on any bandwagon.
Precisely. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement, especially with something as revolutionary as AI. But critical thinking is more important than ever.
Right.
Don't let the hype cloud your judgment.
Speaking of things that could cloud our judgment, let's talk about inflation.
Okay.
Jerome Powell seems pretty relaxed, saying inflation expectations are anchored. But there are definitely some whispers of concern out there.
Yeah. And for good reason.
Okay.
The 2-year inflation break-even rate, that the market's expectation of inflation over the next 2 years has been creeping up.
Right.
Some Fed officials are starting to sweat.
Yeah.
And I think we should be paying attention to that.
Especially with the potential impact of tariffs looming over everything.
Right.
We're seeing businesses and consumers getting jittery.
Yeah.
And that uncertainty alone can drive prices higher.
Absolutely. Tariffs could easily add fuel to the inflation fire.
Right.
That's a complex situation with a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that inflation is something we need to keep a close eye on.
Okay. And now, for something completely different, Elon Musk stepped into the spotlight.
Oh boy, here we go.
Alongside President Trump this week, he had some strong opinions about government spending and waste.
Right.
Which isn't exactly a surprise.
They held a joint press conference to unveil the new Department of Government Efficiency.
DOGE for short.
DOGE for short, yeah.
Musk's argument is that runaway government spending is fueling inflation and that streamlining government operations is key to a stronger economy.
I mean, it sounds good in theory, but it wouldn't be an Elon Musk story without some controversy.
Right, of course.
Critics are already crying foul, pointing to potential conflicts of interest. Some of Musk's own companies could benefit from government contracts.
So is this a genuine attempt at reform, or is there something more self-serving going on here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Musk's focus on efficiency and accountability is certainly appealing.
Right.
And cutting wasteful spending could have a positive impact on the economy.
Yeah.
But his close ties to the administration
do
raise some valid concerns about transparency and potential favoritism.
Right.
It's a situation that warrants a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay, we've talked a lot about AI and Elon Musk, but let's zoom out and look at the broader market.
Right.
What are some other trends we should be watching?
One interesting data point is Coca-Cola's recent earnings report.
Okay.
They managed to exceed expectations despite raising prices.
Wow, so what's their secret? Are people just that addicted to sugary drinks?
It's not just about sugary drinks anymore.
Okay.
Coca-Cola is actually diversifying its portfolio. They've made a strategic move into the high-protein milk market, for example.
Interesting.
They're clearly aware of shifting consumer preferences.
Okay.
Especially with the rising popularity of weight loss medications.
Oh, wow.
Like Ozempic and Wegovy.
So they're not just reacting to inflation, they're adapting to a changing market.
Exactly. They're anticipating trends and meeting consumer demand. Which is a smart move for any company looking to thrive in this environment.
This is a good reminder for all of us to pay attention to how the companies we rely on are adapting to these shifts. It could be a clue to their long-term success and maybe even a good indicator for our own investment decisions, speaking of companies adapting. Tesla's stock has been struggling lately.
Yeah.
This is their 5th consecutive day of losses. Which is a pretty stark contrast to their performance last year.
It seems they're facing some real competition now.
Okay.
Particularly from Chinese electric vehicle giant BYD.
I've never even heard of them.
They've been making waves in the industry by offering advanced driver assistance features at no extra cost.
Oh, wow.
That kind of value proposition puts pressure on Tesla to innovate and maintain its edge.
It sounds like a game changer. It makes you wonder if Tesla's getting complacent. Now, while we're on the topic of individual companies, let's take a look at the ride-sharing sector.
Okay.
Lyft just announced earnings that exceeded estimates.
Good for them.
And then they've also announced a stock buyback program.
It's definitely good news for Lyft and their investors.
Yeah.
They seem to be navigating the post-pandemic world quite well, with a focus on profitability and shareholder value.
And what about their rival DoorDash?
Yeah.
They also reported strong earnings that beat expectations.
Yeah, they're riding the wave of continued strong demand for food delivery.
Okay.
And they've been raising their outlook, so it seems they're pretty optimistic about the future.
So overall, both the ride-sharing and food delivery sectors are proving to be pretty resilient, even with all the economic headwinds we've been discussing.
Right.
But let's switch gears now and talk about an industry that's been struggling housing.
Yeah, rising mortgage rates and low inventory have been a nightmare for anyone looking to buy a home.
Right.
But amidst all the doom and gloom, Zillow just announced that they expect 2025 to be their first profitable year in over a decade.
That's a bold prediction, especially given how tough the market is right now.
Right.
What makes them so confident?
Well, unlike a lot of their competitors, Zillow isn't just reliant on home sales. They've been capitalizing on the growing demand for rentals.
Okay.
Which now makes up a significant portion of their revenue.
So they're not just sitting back and waiting for the market to turn around. They're being proactive.
Exactly. And their focus on innovation and technology gives them a competitive edge. It's a good reminder that even in struggling sectors, there are companies that can find ways to adapt and thrive.
Speaking of adapting, we should probably talk about what's happening with Treasury yields.
Okay.
They've been on the rise lately, which has a lot of investors feeling uneasy.
It's definitely a factor investors are worried about rising prices eating away at the value of their fixed income investments.
Yeah.
And the Fed's wait-and-see approach isn't exactly calming nerves.
Right.
Everyone's looking for a clearer signal from the Fed about what they plan to do with monetary policy.
And with that January CPI report coming out soon, things could get pretty volatile. If inflation is higher than expected, it could spook investors and push yields even higher.
It's a tough spot for the Fed. They need to keep inflation under control without derailing the economic recovery.
Right.
It's a tightrope walk.
Yeah.
And the whole market is watching their every move.
Well, before we dive into the wild world of politics and government spending, I think we need to touch on a specific aspect of the market that you flagged, the bond market.
Yes, it's been quite interesting lately.
Okay.
Treasury yields, in particular, have been on the rise, which is usually a sign of concern about inflation.
But you seem to have a different take on this.
I do. Nancy Lazar, an economist we follow closely, argues that the rise in Treasury yields might not be entirely driven by inflation fears.
Okay.
She thinks that investors are overlooking some key indicators, like the strength of the consumer.
You mean the fact that people are still spending despite inflation?
Exactly. Lazar points out that companies are raising prices, not cutting them. And input costs are still climbing. This suggests that inflation is likely to persist.
Okay.
And she questions why investors would expect rate cuts when the consumer base is so healthy.
So she's basically saying the market is misreading the situation.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay.
Lazar sees a disconnect between the economic data and what the market is pricing in.
Right.
She believes the Fed is right to be cautious about easing monetary policy too soon.
Well, it's certainly an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
One that makes you think twice about those knee-jerk reactions we often see in the market.
It's a reminder that sometimes looking beyond the headlines and digging into the data can reveal a very different story.
Now, speaking of different stories, it's time to tackle the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Elon Musk and government spending.
Right. We've heard his views on government waste, but we need to look at the broader political context.
Okay.
It seems there's a growing consensus that we need to address the national debt, even among those who supported the recent tax cuts.
Right.
The problem is finding common ground on how to do that is proving to be a huge challenge.
I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that no one wants to cut the programs they like.
Exactly. The two parties have very different priorities.
Right.
And there's a lot of resistance to cutting anything that's seen as essential.
Yeah.
The classic political dilemma. Everyone wants to reduce the debt, but no one wants to make the sacrifices needed to get there. And all this gridlock creates a lot of uncertainty and volatility in the market.
Because investors are worried about what a ballooning national debt could mean for the economy.
Exactly. They're concerned about the potential for higher interest rates, runaway inflation, and even a sovereign debt crisis.
Right.
It's not just an abstract problem anymore. It's a very real threat that we need to take seriously.
Okay, so the national debt is a problem, but how do we fix it? What are the solutions being proposed?
That's where things get even more complicated.
Okay.
You've got Elon Musk pushing for drastic spending cuts and government streamlining.
Right.
But then you've got others arguing that we need to raise taxes or invest in infrastructure or stimulate the economy.
Right.
There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
And it's likely going to involve some pretty tough choices and compromises.
Speaking of tough choices, didn't I hear something about another debt ceiling debate coming up?
You did. It's like a recurring nightmare in Washington. It's a political game of chicken where both sides threaten to default on the nation's debt.
Right.
Unless they get their way.
Right.
And it's a dangerous game that could have devastating consequences for the entire economy.
Didn't we go through this a few years ago?
We did, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, I remember that.
It led to a downgrade of the U.S. credit rating. Created a ton of uncertainty in the markets.
Right.
And almost pushed the country into a recession.
So the stakes are pretty high this time around.
They are. The outcome will depend on the political climate, the negotiating skills of both parties, and ultimately their willingness to compromise.
Let's hope cooler heads prevail and we can avoid a repeat of that last debacle.
I agree.
Now, before we move on, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Elon Musk's claims about government waste and fraud.
He's been pretty vocal about it.
Uh-huh.
Even pointing to some pretty shocking examples.
Like what?
Like people supposedly receiving Social Security payments.
Wow.
Who are over 150 years old.
It sounds almost too ridiculous to be true.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Musk insists it's just the tip of the iceberg. He's calling for greater transparency and accountability in government spending.
Okay.
Arguing that we need to modernize and streamline government operations. He even wants to use technology to improve efficiency and reduce waste.
So it's not just about cutting programs.
Right.
It's about making the government work better.
That's his argument.
Okay.
He believes that by improving efficiency and prioritizing the needs of the American people, we can significantly reduce government waste without sacrificing essential services.
Well, it's certainly an ambitious goal.
It is.
One that I'm sure will be met with plenty of resistance.
Oh, absolutely. There are valid concerns about the potential for privatization and the erosion of public services.
Right.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Okay, before we get too deep into the political weeds,
let's
shift our focus to something a little more concrete. The energy sector.
Okay.
The new administration has finally laid out its energy roadmap. And it seems like affordability, reliability, and security are their top priorities.
They've also emphasized innovation and strengthening the power grid.
Right.
But there's been some debate about the role of renewable energy in all of this.
Okay.
Some critics argue that the administration's policies are actually holding back solar and wind power.
Are they saying the administration is favoring traditional energy sources like oil, gas, and coal?
That's the accusation.
Yeah.
But the administration insists they're not picking winners and losers.
Yeah.
They're just trying to create a level playing field where all energy sources can compete fairly.
It's a tough balancing act, especially with climate change looming over everything.
It is. The future of the energy sector depends on a complex mix of factors, from technological advancements to government policies to consumer demand.
Right.
Finding the right blend of energy sources to meet our needs while protecting the environment is a challenge that requires innovation, collaboration, and a long-term perspective.
And speaking of challenges, the retail sector is facing a pretty big one right now.
The rise of e-commerce, especially after the pandemic, has been a major disruptor.
Right.
Traditional brick-and-mortar stores are struggling to compete with online giants like Amazon. Consumers are increasingly comfortable shopping online,
right,
and they expect convenient speed and low prices.
So how are retailers adapting to this new reality?
Well, some are investing heavily in their online presence, offering omnichannel shopping experiences where customers can seamlessly move between online and offline channels.
Right.
Others are focusing on niche markets and providing more personalized services to stand out from the crowd.
It sounds like a retail Darwinian evolution.
Exactly.
Where only the fittest survive.
The retail landscape is constantly evolving, and the companies that can't keep up will be left behind.
Okay, let's talk about a sector that's always evolving, the tech sector.
Right.
It's been the engine of economic growth for years, but it's also facing increasing scrutiny these days.
You're right. Concerns about privacy, antitrust, and the power of big tech are growing. Governments around the world are starting to look at ways to regulate these companies. Trying to find that delicate balance between fostering innovation and protecting consumers.
So it's a new era for tech companies.
It is. The rules of the game are changing. And companies that can't adapt to this new reality are going to struggle to succeed.
Well, let's move on to a sector that's always in the news, healthcare.
Healthcare costs continue to rise. And the debate about how to make healthcare more affordable and accessible rages on.
Right.
The pandemic also highlighted the importance of public health and the need for a strong and resilient healthcare system.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
But what about the pandemic's impact on the way we work?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It seems like remote work is here to stay. And that's going to have huge implications for the future of work.
Absolutely. Companies are rethinking their office space needs.
Right.
And employees are demanding more flexibility and work-life balance. It's forcing everyone to rethink the traditional 9-to-5 workday and consider new ways to collaborate and stay connected.
So the old office-centric model is dead?
It's certainly evolving. The future of work is still being written, but it's clear that the pandemic has ushered in a new era, one that's likely to be more flexible, more digital, and more focused on outcomes than hours spent at a desk.
Speaking of evolving, we can't forget about globalization.
Right. The world is becoming increasingly interconnected, but there are also some growing pains along the way.
Right. Concerns about job losses, inequality, and the erosion of national sovereignty are rising. And the pandemic exposed just how fragile global supply chains can be. The future of globalization is uncertain.
But it's clear that we're moving towards a more complex and nuanced world.
I agree.
Well, before we go down that rabbit hole,
Okay.
let's touch on another global challenge, climate change.
Right.
The evidence is pretty clear that the planet is warming.
Yeah.
And that's leading to all sorts of problems, from more extreme weather events to rising sea levels.
It's one of the most pressing issues of our time.
Yeah.
And it requires global cooperation, technological innovation, and a fundamental shift in our mindset.
Right.
We need to find ways to reduce our carbon footprint and invest in clean energy sources.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy, but the transition to a more sustainable future is essential.
Okay, so we've got a lot to think about on the global scale.
We do.
But what about here at home?
Okay.
What are some of the key social and political trends shaping the American landscape?
Well, one trend that's impossible to ignore is the rise of populism. We've seen a surge in support for populist leaders and movements all over the world.
Yeah.
And the U.S. is no exception.
Right.
It's often driven by economic anxiety, cultural resentment, and a deep distrust of elites.
So what does this mean for our political system?
Populism can be a powerful force for change, But it can also be incredibly divisive and destabilizing.
Right.
Understanding the root causes of this trend and finding ways to address the concerns of those who feel left behind is crucial for maintaining social cohesion and preserving our democratic values.
It feels like we're living in a time of extremes with a lot of anger and division on both sides of the political spectrum.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And it's something we need to be mindful of as we navigate these turbulent times.
Now, before we move on to the next section, I think we should take a closer look at one specific aspect of the political landscape that's been generating a lot of discussion, the growing debate about the role and size of government.
Well, we've already talked about Elon Musk's views on government spending, but it seems like this issue is becoming increasingly polarized.
It is. On one hand, you have those who argue that the government has become too large and intrusive, stifling individual liberty and free markets. They advocate for smaller government, lower taxes, and less regulation.
And on the other side, you have those who believe that the government has a crucial role to play in providing essential services, protecting the vulnerable, and ensuring a fair and just society. They support a more active government role in areas like healthcare, education, and social welfare.
It's a classic ideological divide, one that's been a part of American politics since the very beginning.
Exactly. And this debate is likely to intensify in the coming years, especially as we face challenges like climate change, economic inequality, and technological disruption.
It sounds like the stakes are pretty high.
They are. The outcome of this debate will have profound implications for the future of our country.
Wow.
And it's one that every citizen should be engaged in.
Well, that's a sobering thought before we wrap up this section.
Okay.
I want to touch on one last point. You mentioned the rise of authoritarianism around the world.
It's a concerning trend, to say the least.
Yeah.
We're seeing a global erosion of democratic norms and institutions, with a growing number of leaders consolidating power, suppressing dissent, and disregarding human rights.
So what can we do about it?
It's a complex problem with no easy solutions.
Right.
But we need to start by acknowledging the threat and standing up for democratic values. We need to defend freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the rule of law, and we need to support those who are fighting for democracy around the world.
It feels like we're at a crossroads with the future of democracy hanging in the balance.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
The choices we make in the coming years will determine the course of history.
Well, on that somewhat ominous note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first section.
We've explored market trends, the impact of technology, political challenges, and global shifts.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Stay tuned for the next section where we'll dive even deeper into these topics and explore what they mean for you and your future.
Can't wait. We've explored some pretty big picture trends.
Yeah.
But now let's kind of shift gears and look at a specific force that's like reshaping the world, artificial intelligence.
Right. AI. It's advancing at an incredible pace.
Yeah, it really is. It's hard to even keep up with all the breakthroughs and new applications.
It feels like every day.
There's a new AI tool or platform being launched.
Where do you see AI having like the biggest impact in the near future?
I mean, it's transforming industries. From healthcare to finance to manufacturing. It's automating tasks, creating new jobs, and fundamentally changing the way we interact with the world.
So it's both a creator and a destroyer of jobs.
Exactly. AI has the potential to solve some of the world's most pressing problems. But it also raises important questions about job displacement, privacy, and bias. We need to be thoughtful about how we develop and deploy AI to ensure that it benefits all of humanity.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential for both good and bad.
Navigating the AI revolution requires careful consideration of its ethical and societal implications. We need to be proactive in shaping this technology to align with our values and goals.
It's a lot to think about. Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about something a little more tangible. The digital economy. The internet has transformed the way we live, work, and play.
It's true. The internet has become the backbone of our modern world. enabling everything from e-commerce to social media to cloud computing. It's created countless opportunities for innovation and connection.
But it's also brought some challenges, right?
Of course, we have to address concerns about privacy, security, and the digital divide.
Right.
We need to make sure that everyone has access to the benefits of the digital age, not just a privileged few.
Right. We can't let the digital divide widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about a trend that's disrupting traditional industries.
Okay.
The sharing economy. Platforms like Airbnb and Uber are changing the way we travel, get around, and consume goods and services.
It's all about leveraging underutilized assets and creating new forms of income. The sharing economy is empowering individuals and challenging traditional business models.
But it's not without its critics.
True. There are questions about regulation worker rights and the impact on traditional industries. We need to find the right balance between encouraging innovation and protecting consumers and workers.
It sounds like the sharing economy is pushing the boundaries of our existing legal and regulatory frameworks.
It is, and it's forcing us to rethink the traditional employer-employee relationship.
Well, speaking of rethinking traditional models, the gig economy is also reshaping the nature of work. More and more people are choosing to work as freelancers and independent contractors.
It's a trend driven by a desire for flexibility, autonomy, and work-life balance. The gig economy offers individuals more control over their schedules and careers.
But it also comes with some trade-offs.
Yes. Gig workers often lack job security benefits and the same protections as traditional employees. Finding ways to ensure that gig workers have access to fair wages, benefits, and protections is essential.
Right. It's important to make sure that the gig economy doesn't create a new underclass of workers.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears again and talk about a trend that's shaping consumer behavior. The rise of the experience economy.
It's the idea that consumers are increasingly valuing experiences over material possessions. They're spending their money on travel, entertainment, dining, and other activities that create memories and enrich their lives. It's all about collecting moments, not things.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I'd rather spend money on a trip than a new gadget any day.
It's a trend that's also blurring the lines between work and leisure. As people seek out jobs that are both meaningful and enjoyable.
So it's not just about what you do, it's about how you feel while you're doing it.
Exactly. People want their work to be an extension of their passions and interests, not just a way to pay the bills.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of things that make sense, the growing focus on wellness is another trend that's reshaping our society.
People are prioritizing their physical, mental, and emotional well-being more than ever before. They're investing in fitness, nutrition, mindfulness, and other practices that support their health and happiness.
It seems like people are finally realizing that health is their most valuable asset.
It is. And the wellness trend is blurring the lines between healthcare and lifestyle. As people take a more holistic approach to their well-being, they're not just waiting for something to go wrong. They're taking proactive steps to prevent illness and optimize their health.
I love that shift in mindset. It's about taking ownership of your health. And making choices that support your overall well-being.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about a trend that's changing the way consumers interact with businesses. The rise of the purpose-driven economy.
It's the idea that consumers want to support businesses that align with their values. They're looking for companies that are making a positive impact on the world, whether it's through sustainable practices, ethical sourcing, or social responsibility initiatives.
So it's not just about the product or service anymore. It's about the company's values and mission.
That's right. Consumers are voting with their wallets, supporting companies that are making a difference.
It's a powerful trend that's holding businesses accountable and pushing them to be more transparent and responsible.
And it's blurring the lines between business and activism.
Right.
Companies are realizing that they can use their platforms to advocate for social and environmental change. And consumers are responding enthusiastically.
It's exciting to see businesses using their influence for good. Okay, let's talk about a trend that's empowering individuals, the rise of the creator economy.
Platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are giving individuals the tools to build businesses around their passions and talents.
Okay.
They're creating content, building communities, and connecting directly with their audiences.
It's a whole new world of entrepreneurship and creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The creator economy is challenging traditional notions of work and celebrity. It's democratizing access to opportunities.
Right.
And giving everyone a chance to share their voice and build their own brand.
It's a really empowering trend, especially for those who might not have had a platform in the past.
Now let's move on to a trend that's shaking up traditional financial systems.
Okay.
The rise of the decentralized economy.
This sounds interesting.
Technologies like blockchain and cryptocurrencies are enabling new forms of peer-to-peer transactions, cutting out the middleman and creating a more transparent and accessible financial system.
It sounds like a revolution in the making.
It has the potential to be. The decentralized economy is promoting financial inclusion, reducing transaction costs, and fostering innovation.
But it's also a bit of a Wild West out there, right?
It's true. The decentralized economy is still in its early stages.
Okay.
And there are definitely some challenges to overcome.
Like what?
Regulation is a big one, as are security and scalability concerns.
It sounds like we're still figuring out the rules of the game.
We are, but the potential is enormous.
Yeah.
The decentralized economy has the power to disrupt traditional financial institutions.
Wow.
And create a more equitable and accessible financial system for everyone.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities. So, okay, let's talk about a trend that's blurring the lines between the physical and digital worlds, the rise of the metaverse.
It's essentially a persistent, immersive virtual world.
Okay.
That's a convergence of virtual reality, augmented reality, and the internet.
So like a virtual world.
It's a place where people can interact with each other, create and experience things, and build communities, all within a digital environment.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does.
Is this something we should be taking seriously? Or is it just hype?
I think it's both. The metaverse is still in its early stages.
Okay.
But it has the potential to revolutionize the way we work, play, and interact with each other. Just imagine attending a virtual concert.
Oh, wow.
Taking a virtual trip to another country.
Okay.
Or collaborating with colleagues in a virtual office.
It sounds like it could open up a whole new world of possibilities.
It could, but it also raises important questions.
Yeah, like what?
About privacy, security, and the potential for addiction.
Right.
We need to be thoughtful about how we design and build the metaverse to ensure that it's a positive and empowering force in our lives.
It's a lot to wrap our heads around. Okay. Let's shift gears again and talk about a trend that's pushing the boundaries of human exploration, the rise of the space economy.
We're seeing a surge in investment from both governments and private companies in space exploration and commercialization. It's opening up new frontiers for scientific discovery, technological innovation, and economic growth.
It's an exciting time to be following the space industry.
It is.
It feels like we're entering a new golden age of space exploration.
It does. And as we venture further into space, we need to be mindful of the ethical and legal challenges that come with it. We need to develop clear guidelines for space exploration and resource utilization to ensure that we're acting responsibly and sustainably.
Right. We don't want to repeat the mistakes we've made here on Earth.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about a field that's advancing at an incredible pace, biotechnology.
We're seeing breakthroughs in gene editing, personalized medicine, synthetic biology, and other areas that have the potential to revolutionize healthcare, agriculture, and manufacturing.
It feels like we're on the verge of a new era of medicine and scientific discovery.
We are. But as we unlock the secrets of life, we also need to grapple with the ethical implications of these technologies.
Okay.
We need to have thoughtful discussions about the potential risks and benefits of gene editing, human enhancement, and other areas of biotechnology.
It's a powerful field with the potential to do both great good and great harm.
Exactly. We need to proceed with caution and wisdom. Now, let's talk about another field that's manipulating matter at the atomic level, nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does.
What are some of the real-world applications of nanotechnology?
It's being used to create new materials with amazing properties, develop incredibly small and powerful devices, and even target drug delivery to specific cells in the body.
So it's already having an impact on our lives.
It is, even if we don't always realize it. Nanotechnology is quietly revolutionizing a wide range of industries.
Okay.
From electronics to medicine to energy.
But it's not without its risks, right?
Of course, any technology that operates at such a small scale raises concerns about environmental and health impacts. We need to carefully assess the potential risks of nanomaterials and develop safeguards to prevent unintended consequences.
It's a reminder that every technological advancement comes with both promise and peril.
Exactly. We need to be mindful of both. Now let's talk about a field that's automating tasks and changing the way we work: robotics.
Robots, it seems like they're becoming increasingly sophisticated and capable.
They are.
It seems like they're popping up everywhere, from factories to hospitals to our homes.
They are. Robots are automating tasks, assisting humans, and exploring new frontiers. They're increasing productivity, improving safety, and expanding our capabilities.
But aren't there also concerns about robots replacing human workers?
There are. Job displacement is a real concern. As robots become more sophisticated and capable of performing tasks that were once done by humans, we need to be proactive in retraining and reskilling workers for the jobs of the future.
Right. We can't just leave people behind as technology advances.
We can't. We need to ensure that everyone benefits from technological progress. Not just a select few. Now let's talk about a technology that's changing the way we manufacture products. 3D printing.
3D printing, I've been hearing about it for years. But it seems like it's finally starting to live up to its hype.
3D printing is enabling the creation of customized products, rapid prototyping, and decentralized manufacturing.
Wow.
It's empowering individuals and small businesses to create and manufacture their own products without having to rely on large corporations.
It sounds like a revolution in the making.
It has the potential to be. 3D printing is democratizing access to manufacturing and opening up new possibilities for innovation and entrepreneurship.
It's exciting to think about all the potential applications.
Now let's talk about a technology that's connecting our physical world to the digital world, the Internet of Things.
The Internet of Things? It seems like everything is getting connected these days.
It does.
From our homes to our cars to our appliances.
That's the essence of the Internet of Things. It's a network of devices, vehicles, buildings, and other objects embedded with electronics, software sensors, and network connectivity.
So what are the benefits of having all these things connected?
It enables a whole new level of efficiency, safety, and convenience. Imagine a world where your home automatically adjusts the temperature based on your preferences. Your car alerts you to potential maintenance issues, and your refrigerator orders groceries when you're running low.
It sounds like a futuristic utopia.
It has the potential to be, but it also raises concerns about privacy, security, and the potential for hacking.
It's a lot of data being collected and shared.
It is.
We need to make sure that it's being used responsibly and that our privacy is being protected.
Absolutely. We need to be thoughtful about the trade-offs between convenience and security in the age of the Internet of Things.
Now let's talk about a technology that's changing the way we collect and analyze information. Big data.
Big data has been a buzzword for years now.
It has.
But it still feels like a bit of a mystery.
It does.
It's essentially the collection and analysis of vast amounts of information from a variety of sources. It's enabling businesses to make better decisions. Governments to provide better services, and scientists to make new discoveries.
So it's about using data to gain insights and make better choices.
Exactly. Big data has the potential to improve our lives in many ways, but it also raises concerns about privacy, security, and the potential for misuse.
It's a powerful tool that can be used for good or for evil.
It is.
We need to be mindful of the ethical implications of big data and ensure that it's being used responsibly.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about a technology that's changing the way we access and use computing. Cloud computing.
Cloud computing, it seems like everything is moving to the cloud these days.
It does.
So what exactly is cloud computing?
It's the delivery of computing services, including servers, storage databases, networking software analytics and intelligence over the Internet. Instead of having to invest in and maintain your own expensive hardware and infrastructure, you can access these services on demand from a cloud provider.
So it's like renting computing power as you need it.
Exactly. Cloud computing is making it easier and more affordable for businesses of all sizes to access the computing resources they need to grow and innovate.
But aren't there risks associated with storing your data in the cloud?
There are. Security and privacy are always top of mind when you're entrusting your data to a third-party provider.
Okay.
And there's also the issue of vendor lock-in.
Right.
Where you become so reliant on one provider that it's difficult to switch if you need to.
So it's a trade-off between convenience and control.
In a way, yes. But the benefits of cloud computing are undeniable.
Okay.
It's transforming the way businesses operate and enabling a new level of flexibility and scalability.
Now let's talk about a field that's becoming increasingly important in our interconnected world, cybersecurity.
Right. It seems like every day
it does.
We hear about another data breach or a cyber attack.
It's a scary world out there.
It is. As our lives become more reliant on technology, we become more vulnerable to cyber threats.
Right.
Cybersecurity is about protecting computer systems and networks from unauthorized access, use disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction.
So it's about keeping our data and systems safe from hackers and other bad actor.
Exactly. And it's a complex and constantly evolving field. Cybersecurity threats are becoming more sophisticated and frequent.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And the consequences of a successful attack can be devastating.
So what can we do to protect ourselves?
Well, individuals and businesses need to take cybersecurity seriously.
Right.
We need to use strong passwords, be wary of phishing scams, keep our software up to date, and be careful about what information we share online.
And what about on a larger scale?
Okay.
What can governments and organizations do?
They need to invest in robust cybersecurity measures. To protect critical infrastructure and sensitive data.
Right.
And they need to work together to share information and coordinate their efforts to combat cyber threats.
It sounds like cybersecurity is a shared responsibility.
It is. We all have a role to play in protecting ourselves and our society from cyber threats.
Let's talk about a field that's still in its early stages, but has the potential to revolutionize many industries: quantum computing.
Quantum computing uses the principles of quantum mechanics to perform calculations in ways that are impossible for traditional computers.
Wow.
It has the potential to solve problems that are currently intractable, leading to breakthroughs in fields like medicine, material science, and artificial intelligence.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does.
Is this something that's going to impact our lives in the near future?
It's still early days, but the potential is enormous.
Wow.
Quantum computing could lead to the development of new drugs, more efficient energy sources, and more powerful artificial intelligence systems.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is, but it also raises important ethical and societal questions that we need to consider carefully.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this section.
We have. We've explored the impact of technology on our lives.
Yeah.
From the digital economy to the metaverse to the rise of quantum computing.
It's a lot to take in.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Stay tuned for the next section where we'll wrap up our deep dive and explore what all these trends mean for the future. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from market signals and AI hype to government spending and a whole bunch of emerging trends that are reshaping our world.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've explored the rise of the digital economy, the sharing economy, the gig economy, the experience economy, the wellness economy, the purpose-driven economy, the creator economy, the decentralized economy, the metaverse, the space economy, biotechnology, nanotechnology, robotics, 3D printing, the Internet of Things, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and quantum computing.
Wow, when you say it all like that, it really hits home how much is changing around us. It can feel a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
It's definitely a lot to process, but I think it's important to remember that change is a constant. It's always been a part of the human experience. And while some of these trends may seem daunting, they also present incredible opportunities for innovation, growth, and progress.
So how do we navigate all of this?
Yeah, that's the big question.
What are some key takeaways that we can apply to our lives, our careers, and our investments?
First, I think it's crucial to embrace a mindset of lifelong learning.
Okay.
The world is changing faster than ever before.
Right.
And the skills and knowledge that are valuable today may be obsolete tomorrow. We need to be constantly learning, adapting, and evolving to stay ahead of the curve.
So ditch the set it and forget it mentality.
Exactly. Embrace curiosity.
Okay.
Seek out new information and be willing to challenge your assumptions.
It sounds like a recipe for staying relevant and adaptable. What else should we keep in mind?
I think it's also important to develop a strong sense of critical thinking. We're bombarded with information from all directions.
Yeah, we are.
And it's easy to get swept up in the hype or fall prey to misinformation. We need to be able to discern fact from fiction.
Okay.
Identify bias and evaluate information objectively.
So it's not just about absorbing information, it's about filtering it and analyzing it.
Exactly. Ask questions,
right.
Challenge assumptions, and don't believe everything you read or hear.
It sounds like a good rule of thumb for life in general.
Yeah.
Not just for navigating these trends.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to specific actions, I think it's important to focus on developing skills that are transferable across industries and roles. Technical skills are important,
right?
But so are soft skills like communication, collaboration, problem solving, and critical thinking.
So it's about being well-rounded and adaptable.
Exactly. The more skills you have,
right,
the more options you'll have in the future.
That makes sense. Any other advice?
I think it's also important to build a strong network.
Okay.
Connect with people in your industry. Attend conferences, join online communities, and nurture your relationships. Your network can provide you with valuable insights, support, and opportunities.
So it's not just about what you know. It's about who you know.
It's about both knowledge is power, but relationships are leverage.
Great advice. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the change happening around us.
Yeah, it can be.
But amidst all the uncertainty, there's also a sense of excitement and possibility.
Right, I agree.
We're living in a time of unprecedented technological advancement, and we have the opportunity to shape the future in profound ways.
That's a great way to put it. The future is not predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today.
Right.
So let's make wise choices, learn from the past, and embrace the possibilities that lie ahead.
I love that.
Yeah.
And remember, there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discuss.
Well said. And to our listener, we encourage you to keep diving deep.
Yes.
Keep those questions coming and keep engaging with the world around you. Until next time.
Until next time. Thanks for joining us.